Okay, so we've quietly snuck up to just over 410 here now on the Federation. Klingon's still lagging a little behind at 380. Romulan just over at 404, so not too far off here. All right, so I guess what we can look at. I know we talked about this a little bit the other night, but I really have to figure out what the answer is because right now it feels like the answer is they're just all bad. But with regards to these level 70, these G6 epic ships, they all just seem bad. For any of you guys who are level 70 or into G7, is that what you are noticing as well? Is there anything that sort of jumped out at you and like, oh no, this one's clearly better than the other ones? I know people get the Cruncha just because it's the Interceptor and then like Interceptor Strike Team is just better. But honestly, it feels like they're just all bad. Unless, of course, STFC space is wrong, which is also possible from time to time. Jay built all three of them yesterday. All right. He's saying Crunch is the best because of the Interceptor Strike Team. Crystal's more plentiful. Yeah. So if we go over to stfc.space, we pull up some ships here. So there's the three that we have to work with here. Cruncha being the one that people recommend just because its primary resource to upgrade the most is crystal, and that's the one that's easiest to source because you get more crystal from all of the packs and bundles. And since you also need a ridiculous amount of Sigma Tritanium, that's also the bundle you're going to pull that has the crystal in it, so it just naturally has more of a resource flow to it than the other ones. As far as like its special ability and stuff like that. So its ship ability here is if the opponent has hull breach, it boosts its energy weapon damage by whatever value this is each time the disintegrator hits. And as you level up the ship, you can see that that value goes up very slightly, but just over 2,000% of its base every single time the disintegrator hits. But it's only boosting energy weapon damage, and it's only doing it when the disintegrator hits. Well, if you notice looking at it, 4 of its weapon types are kinetic. Its 4 main weapons are kinetic. The disintegrator is the one that fires every round. So it's only boosting itself, which is a little weird, I guess, but I guess limiting in a way. So it doesn't fire round 1, and then it fires every round afterwards. And every time it shoots, it cumulatively boosts its own damage. Which is interesting, I guess. And the Enterprise does the same thing. As long as the ship has morale, it boosts its kinetic weapon damage by 21%, 2100% every time the decimator hits. So it's the same thing. You know, 4 of its weapons are energy weapons, so they're not getting boosted. The only thing that's getting boosted is the decimator, the kinetic weapon, which again fires all every round. So boosting itself. Its base damage on that weapon, that kinetic weapon, you're talking about min damage 11 million, max damage 14 million, versus the other weapons over here that are doing 10 to 13. It's doing 11 to 14. So not like it's a huge bonus, but then again, and then even some of the other weapons here that are firing early in the rounds, these have longer cooldowns on them. But this one is the one that's firing consistently, so the longer the fight goes, the more that damage is going to stack. So yeah, so not like it's a huge bonus or anything like that. But if a fight goes, you know, some of these, like the V'ger hostile fights, they go 25, 30 rounds. Well, this is going to progressively just keep stacking and stacking. But I'll tell you the one that interested me more was actually the Scimitar. Because this one, unless this is worded wrong, and I'll have to check in game to confirm it, says as long as the opponent has burning, Scimitar increases its weapon damage by 1800% of base each time the incinerator hits. It doesn't say it's only limited to the incinerator, and it's a lower percentage. So it makes it seem like it's boosting all of the weapons. So again, weapons are all doing in the similar damage range, 11 to 14, 17 to 20, right? The longer cooldowns, same firing patterns and things. And if we go down here, again, same firing patterns. So every time the incinerator fires, it looks like it's boosting everything. Aloha, Dr. Iron Chef. Good morning. Good to see you. So this one actually seems like it's the best ability because it's going to boost everything else. It's not just boosting its own self. It's a little bit less, but it's also boosting all these other guns too. So they're all progressively getting more and more damage. And that's why this one I feel like is the most interesting. And I do want to just go double check that in game to see, make sure, you know, the website isn't wrong, because it does tend to happen from time to time. So if we go look at the Scimitar here, the Scimitar increases its weapon damage by 1800% of base every time the incinerator hits. So this one actually seems like it has the highest damage potential. And it's not like it's scaled back considerably, all things considered, where, you know, to account for that like they made these weapons hit less. They all seem to hit the same, 10 to 12, 10 to 12. All right, this one's a little lower, 17 to 20, 11 to 14. JK says they all sound the same. What's the difference part? So the Enterprise and the Cruncha say that they boost a specific weapon type every time the specialty gun hits. So every time with them, every time the specialty or the incinerator or specialty decimator specialty gun hits, they boost a specific type, energy or kinetic only. And if you look at the firing pattern and the weapons on that ship, the only thing that it's actually boosting is that specialty gun. So that one gun is only boosting itself over and over and over again, and the other 4 guns are not getting boosted. The Scimitar says it just boosts weapon damage. So it's hitting all 5 weapons are all getting a bonus. It's a little bit less of a bonus, but it's applying to 5 separate weapons. And by the time you get to round 6, where this first gun is even going to fire, it's already been boosted 5 times. Like, you've already added 18 times 5 is what, 9,000% to its base weapon damage by the time this thing even fires. So to me, that feels like this one has a lot more potential. And I think that's why it's the one I'm going to go for. As far as material-wise, we're not using gas, which is great because rare gas is one of the harder to get. It is still using crystal. We are still also needing ore, which I'm going to want to be pulling ore because I'm going to want par steel, because I need a crap ton of Sigma par steel to get ready to keep moving into G7 because the buildings cost so much more. So that's something I'm going to want to stockpile on. And since I am still going to need crystal, I'll also get titanium. So again, not the most effective or efficient part-wise. But it seems like this is a good bonus here. So I think this is the one I'm going to go for. It also doesn't hurt that this is the one that I happen to, I think, have the most blueprints for out of the DTI store. So, Retrieving, thanks for hanging out and lurking. Yeah, Chris is kind of agreeing. Hi, Quazel, good to see you. Good evening, Lube. Welcome on in. Yeah, so I think that's the one we're going to aim towards building is going to be the Scimitar. Plus, then it keeps my streak alive of going with pure Romulan ships the whole way. So that way it will also help maybe some of my resistance bonuses. It also looks the best. I mean, the Romulan ships just inherently look cooler. Also, since I have a Velox already, I don't have to worry about doubling up because if I do shipyard level. So because I have a Velox, if I go Cruncha, then I'm building back-to-back interceptors. Plus, eventually I may get the Vengeance too, so then it's 3 interceptors in a row. That's not ideal. And the Enterprise, which would be good because I don't really have an Explorer type. I mean, I have a Minerva, but this one just uses up a lot of rare gas, which seems to be a little harder to get because you're just not pulling dilithium bundles as much either because you don't use that material as often. Now, I do know that Battleship does overlap with the Cube, but I mean, that seems like that's a small price to pay, and I'm probably still going to use the Cube more often than the Scimitar. But I don't think it's going to take too much in the way of additional parts. If we go back to stfc.space and just look at these final couple tiers of the cube. As far as what we're using in materials to go from 15 to 18, I mean, we are still using a little bit of the same materials, but it's a lot less. We're using some battleship parts and things like that, but it's a lot lower. And obviously this is the unbalanced number. To take the G6 Epic, to take the Scimitar all the way to max, it was using like 45 million ore and like 10 million crystal. This is using a small fraction of that to go up that high. Now the rare number is a little high, which is a little concerning, but obviously they will be double dipping with each other a little bit. But I think we can make it work. I think we can make it work. Surge research is very dilithium heavy. Good to know. Denver says early on you won't have lower deck slots, so burning is going to stay out. Just make sure. I mean, burning's just going to have to be in that third slot then. It's going to be crit, hull breach, and burning in order to get that damage bonus, which also then feeds into all the other Nova build research. Because there's a whole bunch of stuff in here for burning anyway, so it's not like it's a waste. There's a whole bunch of stuff in here related to burning. We have a damage bonus, we have an isolytic bonus, and eventually I'll finish the mitigation. Or you can use the execution post. Now that's an interesting thought. It is a chaos tech. A Naran execution post is a chaos tech. When fighting hostiles or armadas at the start of each round, you have a chance to apply burning for 2 rounds. I think this maxes out at 85%. Yeah, 85% when you take it all the way up. The other bonuses for the Eviscerator are kind of irrelevant. This is the Eviscerator one. This is anything. You kill Gorn, you get the loot bonus from. But just being able to possibly trigger burning could also save it a lot of time here. And it's a chaos tech. So you're taking the place of like the Godsend or the Chrono Deflector maybe. But again, it's a short-term temporary thing just to help maybe bridge the gap until you get it up a couple tiers and get additional lower deck slots undone. Good luck with G7 hostiles. By the time I'm taking it to G7, it's going to be high enough tiered. I'm going to have 5 or 6 lower deck slots. It's not like I'm just going to build it and then just keep going and go right to 71. No, sir. No, sir. We're going to be at 70 for a couple of months. But I appreciate the concern.